same natives were running around killing each other before colonizers showed up.
So that video really made a lot of people mad. You see, the main point of that video is that if you're in a violent society, you're going to develop armor and weapons. And if you're in a peaceful society, you're going to walk around mostly naked because you got nothing to worry about. Let me delve into this a little bit deeper, because we all know the colonial narrative where it says that, oh, because they had more technology and they were more advanced is what allowed them to win. But I'm going to say I don't think that that's the case at all. I think it really comes down to 1,000 to 2,000 years of societal development. And if we just go to the basic hierarchy of needs, and we look at that, you need your needs met in order to get to self-actualization. You need your physiological needs, your mental needs, your emotional needs. Then it gets to your spiritual self-actualization, your purpose, your fullest self. So I think if a society lives in a state where it doesn't have its needs met, it will develop armor and weapons to be able to go into neighboring societies and take resources in order to get their needs met. Whereas if a society for 1,000 years was living with all of their needs met and at the top of the teepee in self-actualization, they would have formed a more respectful, humane society, one that is more based on spirituality. Now, the craziest part about the hierarchy of needs is that it was appropriated actually from the Blackfoot tribe. You see, Maslow went and spent time with the Blackfoot tribe. Pause to read, and pause to read. You see, I think he went and sat with some spiritual leaders or medicine man, and they explained this concept to him, and he appropriated it. You see, the part that he left out is that when you live in self-actualization at the top of the teepee for centuries or generations, it leads to the next aspect of community actualization, when a whole community works together at the same level. So my theory is that the natives, for thousands of years, were living at the top of the teepee, and they developed a sense of community and mutual respect. And so when they had conflicts, death was not the goal. Whereas in European societies, they were living at the bottom of the teepee without their needs being met, so it was more of an act of survival where I need to take your resources and make sure you're not alive to consume those resources because we need enough and we don't have enough. And this all had to do with each society's respective relationship to the land, right? The European societies kind of used up all of their resources early on, while the natives, because they had the philosophy of only take what you need, there was an abundance for everybody. I think the most technological advanced society would be the one that doesn't need to kill in order to have its needs met.
Many children ran away from here. Many of them did not make it home. Many drowned in this river, trying to swim across. Those children are not accounted for.
Evelyn Camille is a survivor of Canada's Kamloops Indian Residential School. Huge numbers of Indigenous children went missing there, and in 2021, a mass grave containing the remains of 215 children was discovered on the former school's grounds.
That was a shock to our system. It opened up the wounds again. So hard to know that these are babies that are there.
A commission called Canada's residential school system cultural genocide. Indigenous children were taken from their homes, converted to Christianity, and forced to assimilate. Some schools used forced labor for industrial work. The schools were government funded and church run, and only shut down completely 25 years ago.
7 or 8 years old, they come and took us in the big cattle trucks, and they picked us up from our reserves and brought us here.
Psychological, physical, and sexual abuse were endemic throughout the institutions. More than 4,100 children died in the schools, and some survivors have testified that they dug graves for classmates. Camille attended Kamloops for 10 years.
This discovery here sort of brings light to how we were treated. Many of the children from here died.
Indigenous groups have led the searches for remains, and the search at Kamloops began in the early 2000s. But the Canadian residential school system didn't exist in isolation. A similar model existed in the US, where over 400 residential schools operated, with the infamous intention to kill the Indian and save the man. So far, 500 deaths across 50 burial sites have been discovered at US schools.
There's never any real closure. The pain is too deep. Any little thing will open up those wounds again, but we learn to move on.
This is Nika Shakarami. Nika was a 16-year-old girl who joined the protests in the streets of Tehran after the murder of Mahsa Amini, and then she disappeared for 10 days mysteriously. The protests intensified throughout the night and she got separated from her friends and family. After she was separated, in her last known communications, she told her friends that she was being chased by security forces. Then all of a sudden, her phone was switched off and her Instagram and Telegram accounts had been completely deleted. Her family searched for her tirelessly, and then eventually 10 days later, they found her body in a morgue at a local detention center. Her nose had been completely smashed in. Her skull was broken from multiple blows. Her family was told that she was briefly held in Evin prison, which is the prison I told you about, the prison for political dissidents, and then that she died from falling from a great height. This is exactly what these girls are risking when they go out there to protest. They will be executed, and then the families and the media will be told that there was an accident, that they fell. That's exactly what they said about Mahsa Amini, that she had a heart problem. The authorities then pressured her family into not having a burial service, then stole her body and buried it miles away so that they could hide what they had done to her. She was laid to rest on her 17th birthday. I'm so tired. No woman, no girl, no child deserves to be killed just for asking for their basic freedoms. After Nika was killed, her family were arrested for speaking about it, for tweeting about it. Her uncle was forcibly made to appear in a video telling the world that this didn't happen. These people are threatened with death, torture, dismemberment if they don't comply with these forcible communications with the world, telling them that this is not happening in Iran and everything's fine, so that the world stops paying attention. And that is why we must keep telling their true stories, the stories of exactly what we know is happening. They cannot control us and our voices, so when they steal their voices, we have to be the voices for them.
Vancouver Police Department have dropped the ball on yet another Indigenous female's death. But the more details that emerge, the more disturbing the story becomes. On May 12, 2021, 13-year-old Noello Soup went missing from a group home in Port Coquitlam. The very next month, a smell like death started emanating from the apartment of Van Chung Pham, a resident in East Hastings. Several neighbors had not only complained to the landlord about the smell, but the company he kept, specifically young girls. In November, the VPD, the police department, started investigating him for drugging and assaulting women. In February, he was charged, and then a few days later died of an apparent overdose. Now, the law in Vancouver states that when there is a suspicious death, the coroner must attend and investigate, but for some reason they didn't for Pham. A few months later, cleaning staff found 2 decomposing female bodies in Pham's residence, Noello Soup and Alma Inan. This goes beyond negligence. When Picton preyed on Vancouver, it was long suspected that VPD were involved. And then Chelsea Portman, and now this shady as house situation?
They broke out all the windows to my house, to the bunkhouse. Oh my God, they broke out all the windows, babe! He needs to go to jail, Steve! Look what he did! I can't do this shit! Look at my house! That's the hell, it's in DigiClean Rocky and I'm shaking really bad. We just come to the house and y'all seen what it looked like last time. Well, I needed the one side windows. Look at my windows. This is after Steve went to court for the protection order. And they wonder why we need protection against the man who literally CSA'd my husband in a broke down car out in that lot. There's glass on the outside, so he went inside and broke it. Dumbass. I only know that because I'm a victim of DV, and forensics came when, yeah, that don't look purposeful to you. I'm not even getting close. That's the guy, Billy, big bad rapist. This is what happens when you're MMIW in real life. This is what happens when you're MMIW activist in real life. It took everything my husband had to tell his story, to share his story of what that evil man did. Y'all saw our journey. We needed one window over there. I said if we could get the rest done, that'd be awesome. But we really all needed the one window, the one room repair, and then all the plumbing, because they stripped it all, right? Wrong. And as a DV survivor, I could tell you that that was punched from the inside. And over there's a screen intact, but the inside windows broken. Every window, even Grandpa's. We haven't gone inside yet. But this is what you get with MMIW in real life. Everyone want to play house. This is what we get when you stand up against rapists.
What?
Ready. Fight.